History. This week we're going to be talking about the key elements of Australia's system of law and government. So first we're going to talk about the Australian Constitution. The Australian Constitution provides the rules for how Australia is run. Described as the birth certificate of the nation, the Constitution is made up of 8 chapters and 128 sections. It united the 6 British colonies as separate states within the Commonwealth of Australia. While each state kept its own parliament, the Constitution also created an Australian Federal Parliament. The Constitution describes what the Federal Parliament can make laws about and how it shares powers with the states. Under the Constitution, the states kept many of their existing powers. The Federal Parliament was given responsibility for areas that affected the whole nation. Sections 51 and 52 of the Constitution outline most of the lawmaking powers of the federal government. This sharing of responsibilities between the federal parliament and state parliaments gave Australia a federal system of government. The next thing we're going to talk about is the separation of powers. The Constitution established 3 groups: the Parliament, the Executive, and the Judiciary, and described the roles that they play in governing Australia. The power to make and manage federal law is divided or shared among these 3 groups, which you can see on your right-hand side of the screen. This division is based on the principle of the separation of powers. It allows each group to keep a check on the actions of others and so prevent the misuse of power. Australia does not have a complete separation of powers because some of the roles of the Parliament and the Executive overlap. For example, the Executive is chosen from among government members of the Parliament, and members of the Judiciary, High Court judges, are appointed by the Governor-General. Changing the Constitution. This is the next section we're going to be talking about. The Constitution can only be changed if the Australian people agree. A proposed change must be approved by the Federal Parliament. It then has to be put to the Australian people in a special vote called a referendum. For the change to be agreed to, it must gain a double majority. This means that the referendum has to be approved by a majority of voters in a majority of states, this being at least 4 of the 6 states of Australia, a national majority of voters, this being more than half of the voters in Australia, they must vote yes. Territory voters are counted in the national majority. 19 referendums proposing 44 changes to the Constitution have been held since Federation. However, only 8 changes have been agreed to by the Australian people. These are the 3 questions you're going to be answering about the information that you've just listened to. You can go back and check the information on the PDF slides, which is located next to this video in the history folder. So these can be just typed directly into your Google document. The first being, what are the key elements of Australia's system of law and government? So you need to think back to the second slide and think about the separation of power within Australia. The second question, list the key elements that make up the Parliament group of the Constitution. The third question, what is referred to as the birth certificate of the nation? So this question is the overarching question of the whole topic that we've been talking about, and this is listed on slide 1. If you have any other questions, make sure you comment in your private comment box and I can get back to you.